pretty much been there since, well, Monday.
So before we get started, I just want to say that the Atmos Social 2014 Snow Pool Contest went out today. So now we're all thinking about preset. Start thinking about those
I was
preset
going to go the
goals.
12th of September.
Yeah,
So you guys missed out.
We can all just really hope that it were 40 degrees cooler right now than it is.
Yes.
That would be so much better, but this is.
Speak for yourself.
8 inches of snow.
Oh, John.
All right, well,
Shovel it.
it's 11, so thanks everybody for coming down on short notice. First of all, I'll say that I'm definitely not an expert in heavy rain. There are plenty of experts in heavy rain sitting here. So anybody that wants to chime in with anything, just do it. And we'll try to get through this quickly because there's kind of a lot to show. I could spend the entire time showing videos that are currently streaming online from the news sites. But instead, I'll just show this one, this is downtown Estes Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty devastating, and I mean, I have a feeling there's similar videos like this in lots of different places, but this just happens to be a place that most people are familiar with. This was from sometime this morning, is all I know.
The last time they had flooding like that was when the Long Lake Dam broke in 1982.
Okay. This is just the Larimer County emergency information. This was from 9/21. It says it's been confirmed that the eastbound lane of Highway 34 in Big Thompson Canyon at mile marker 74 is collapsed. The westbound lane has a large flat crack through it. So I guess the people in Estes Park, I don't know if there's really anywhere for them to go, at least far away. Yeah, you go west into the park maybe, but I don't think they can evacuate to the front range very easily because most of the canyons are closed right now.
Wow.
So that's very problematic. Next, I will show some totals so far. This is Boulder County. You can see Boulder here, Longmont, the northwest side of Denver. These are 24-hour totals. Here's an 8.86 of this canyon between Lyons and the Peak-to-Peak Highway. There's basically a very large area of greater than 5 and mostly greater than 6 inches of rain in 24 hours, which, as you know, is going to be a big problem no matter how much rain has happened in the previous days. And it just so happens in this case that it has been raining on and off since roughly Monday. So I don't have any 5-day totals, but I'm sure that there are some areas that are going to be over 10 inches.
Have you heard from
in
Ed?
5 days. Yeah, Ed is okay. He's gotten something like 8.5 inches since Monday. I think he lives on the southeast side of Boulder. Is that right? Something like that.
Cocoa Rush showed 1/9.
Yeah, here's the Cobra Rise. This is the 24 hours ending this morning. You can see the max is 8.62 here, and there might be one that I'm not sure, but nonetheless, it's an incredible amount and not something we see very often in 24 hours here. So a little bit of historical context, briefly. So I pulled up this Maddox paper from 1980 where he shows the synoptics patterns that are typical for front range flash flood events. The type 1 event, he sort of has a schematic here of what it typically looks like. This is not as much for the front range as it is a little bit further to the west, but if you think about shifting this a little bit further to the east, then that's typically what we get. And that essentially we need an upper low somewhere to our west or southwest. And we usually have a ridge that's oriented in sort of northwest to southeast. I don't know if you call that a negatively tilted ridge. Anyway, this is almost always the case, and in this situation we get lots of mid and upper level moisture coming from the south and west, and oftentimes low level moisture from some direction out of the east. So I showed this at the CIRA discussion recently. This map I scanned, it hung on Ray Zayer's wall for basically forever when he worked here. And he retired a few years ago, and I made him bring it in so I could scan it. So this map just simply shows the location of the 5880 meter 500 millibar height for various flood events. The Big Thompson is this one. The Fort Collins flood in 97 is here. The Cheyenne flood from 85. The point being that it's a very similar pattern. In fact, all of the 588 contours in this case goes right through the Four Corners up into northwestern Wyoming, and you do get this ridge oriented this direction. It turns out in this case we're not exactly that set up. This is the 500. This is the 588 line right here. We do have the ridge oriented in the proper direction. It doesn't quite go through the four corners and bend around. But on the other hand, these were all events in our typical flash flood period, which is the last week of July or the first week of August. So perhaps this being in September is a little bit different. But I just thought that was sort of interesting. So looking at some soundings, let's see, where are we? Here is this morning's sounding. You can see, first of all, noteworthy, we're saturated all the way up to at least 500 millibars, and maybe now even a little bit above that. The winds, I'll show the surface map in a minute, but we have roughly northerly in this case, but it's easterly flow now across much of the Front Range. And it's easterly all the way up to close to 500 millibars, and then we have the upper level southwesterlies, which you can see, well, that's not looping, but you can see that on the water vapor loop over there.
You can see evidence of melting there at 0 degrees C. It's temperatures.
Oh yeah, melted level right there, yep. So as was discussed in the Peterson et al. Banff paper back in '99 following the Fort Collins flood, sometimes we do get tropical air masses here, such that the rain process may be dominated by warm rain processes rather than cold rain. And a lot of the people in Boulder last night were saying they didn't see a whole lot of lightning, a little bit. And I think the cloud tops, if we real quick pull up the infrared image, this doesn't go back all that far. I think it goes back to sometime in the middle of the night. But you can see that there's largely a lack of cool cloud tops. The yellows are about minus 30 Celsius, and you can see some of that. But for the most part, the cloud tops are warmer than minus 30, which is relatively low top convection, and tends to be, anytime you get a setup like that, we have very efficient rain processes, and the radar estimates are often underdoing what actually falls. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, I was going to compare some soundings. So this sounding is from August 1st of 1976 from the Big Thompson event. And it's actually quite a bit different. This is more of a typical summertime sounding where you have a deep, well-mixed boundary layer. And in this case, I think the Big Thompson was essentially a single thunderstorm that set up over the Estes Park area and rained for a long time. So it's not really the exact same setup as we have over the Front Range. This was 0Z 29 July, so this is the Fort Collins event. This looks more typical of what we have now, where we have easterly winds near the surface bending around to westerly winds aloft, and of course, essentially saturated all the way up. And this is from 2 nights ago, actually, in Denver. You can see it's pretty similar. This sounding broke our September record for total reciprocal water, 36 millimeters, and I'll show that in more in detail in just a minute. You can kind of toggle back and forth to compare. And of course, the July case was just a little bit warmer all the way up, and but as far as the lapse rates actually look quite similar, close to moist adiabatic all the way up. Matt Bunker sent me this morning. This is just showing the total reciprocal water in inches on this column for Denver, the Denver sounding since 1949, and this is ranked for September only, and the green values are basically this event. Actually, this year, I should say, because this is September 1st. But you can see from 2 nights ago, we had 1.42 inches, and so on. So all of these greens are from 2013. If you look at it in terms of all months, this event, this sounding actually came in, I don't know, 24th or something like that, where all of the events above were either in July or August. And you can see the event, this is the Fort Collins flash flood event right here. Number 1 was actually something from 1952. I don't know if this resulted in a flood or not. But anyway, it's abnormally moist. We now have a new record for reciprocal water in September, at least since 1950. Okay, moving onward. I showed the satellite loops. I will show this. This is a 3-hourly time step water vapor loop starting Monday, just to show this very persistent upper low, which has been generally migrating around the southwest. It almost looks like the center of the upper low is rotating in a circle. But the result of that is we have flow from the south, which is bringing up mid and upper level moisture. And it's also sort of interesting to me that during the heavy rain last night, the upper levels seem to be trying to dry out a little bit. And if you just looked at this loop, you wouldn't maybe guess that we had record rains in the Boulder area. because again, the lack of cold cloud tops and some relatively warm brightness temperatures in the water vapor band. But right along the Front Range, you can see some of the colder clouds being shown. Okay, moving on to the radar currently. Where do I have that? This is the loop starting sometime yesterday evening. Oops. And going through the current. And I'm sure there'll be papers written about this, but things are happening that I don't really understand, especially last night. Let's let this start over. First of all, you can see this definite rotation here. I don't know what caused. Does anybody have any idea what caused that?
Well, we had easterlies, up to 5 kilometers, and then we had southerlies. So you could have very well seen a Denver cyclone set up there, but it also, could be a meso-low.
Yeah, some sort of mesoscale low feature. But at any rate, whatever caused that circulation, it seems to be, last night at least, focusing the rain. And I'll point out, this is Denver, this is Broomfield, Boulder is right here. So you can see it was just to the north of that center of circulation, and it just kept feeding the precip across the Boulder area, and then where it would stay just to the west of Boulder in the foothills. Now up here in Fort Collins, we have gotten less than Boulder, a good bit less actually. I can't remember, I guess I didn't zoom in on Fort Collins. Let's do that really quick. I think the 24-hour totals are in somewhere between 2 and 3 inches in Fort Collins. Yeah, so mostly 2.1, 2.3, roughly something along those lines across much of Fort Collins. Notice out here, I don't know exactly where this is. Does anybody know?
Yeah,
Hickory
it's
Park.
Hickory Park,
Okay,
yeah.
so 5.4 there. Here's a 3.09. This is roughly where the fire was, and I'm sure that this is one of the reasons that they're having some flooding problems up in the High Park urban area. Back to the radar. So currently, there continues to be a stream of moisture. Let me go to a shorter loop so we can focus more on the now. Oops. So yeah,